Rock and roll.
Rock and roll? Okay. Sorry, guys. I couldn't see out of them. So I have to quickly clean them. So now you know what I look like without glasses. There we go. Oh my goodness, I can see. Hi. We're going to have so much fun today. It is strictly back to basics today. We're going to be working with some very basic and beginner strokes. We're going to talk about floating. We're going to talk about highlighting. We're going to talk about doing comma strokes, tracing, transferring, and we're going to talk about doing that beautifully blended background. So we have lots to cover today, and it's all at a very beginner level. So we're going to take our time. And if you have questions, by all means, fire away. Ask me whatever you need to know to get this done. So, pardon me. We're going to have fun with this. And we're going to be doing this as part of our Mother's Day giveaway today. So I have two. I usually do three, but I have two special giveaways for today, all in honor of Mother's Day. Quite a nice size box full of goodies. And I'm going to tell you all about them. They have a really cute kit in there for a little menu board. They have one of our pin kits for the sunflower pin. There's a pin kit and the project sheet is enclosed in there. We have a wonderful little create bag filled up with some of my favorite things. My favorite sanders, to be more precise. So we have a really cute little create bag tucked in there. We have a fabulous 5-brush set of Dynasty Black Gold brushes in that box. And this is the part that really got me excited. We have some of the newest colors from DecoArt in each of those boxes. So lots of fun stuff enclosed in our giveaways today, all in honor of Mother's Day. So if you want to get your name on the wheel, all you have to do is join us in the chat, hit the big old red subscribe button, and turn on your bell notifications so that you know you get notified whenever we go live or when we add new video. So join us in the chat, say hello, ask a question, tell us where you're from, because we would love to know. And your name goes on the wheel, and at the end of today's live, we're going to pull 2 names off the wheel, and both of those lucky winners will get one of these great little Mother's Day boxes. So that's for today. We're going to be painting these really pretty, sweet summer daisies. I love daisies. They're such a happy flower, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So if you are ready to paint daisies, so am I. Oh my goodness, that sure lit up fast. I don't know. It chirped. Do you have sound turned on that thing?
That's going to be going all day.
Renee's going to quickly figure out where that noise is coming from. Oh my goodness. Well, if it didn't drive me nuts, it would drive him nuts, so there we go. Okay, now I can say hi to a few people. Melody Cameron, happy Mother's Day to you too. And Margaret Davis from Ohio. Well, thank you. I happen to love this too.
I'm going to fix that.
And Loretta Lynn Bell, happy Mother's Day to all mothers. And Sharon Howard Bartlett is joining us today. Happy Mother's Day from Missouri. Sharon, thanks for joining us. I lost the jet again. Renee's fixing things yet again. So this is the piece that we're going to be doing today. It looks far more elaborate than it actually is. It just requires a little delicate work, but I think you're going to really love this one. There's Nancy McNeil Cardi. Hi, Nancy, from Marathon, New York. Nice.
It is a fast-moving chat.
It is very fast-moving. And Judy Thacker. And Elka Levantes. Hello, Elka. And Denise Chavez. And Judy Addison Galt. Hi, Judy. And Sandy Barton. Sandy, thank you so much for your card the other day. It was so sweet to get that. Give West a big squeeze for me and say thank you. You're on your bike on the trail trying not to run over snakes even though you don't like them. You're on the bike. Oh my goodness. No, don't run over snakes. And Barb Schwabel. Hi, Barb. From Buffalo, New York. Nice. Very nice. And I know I missed somebody. Well, I know I missed a lot of people, but there was... there she is. There she is. Hi, Shirley. And Diane Langevin Blake. Hello. Good to have you with us, Diane. Oh, my heavens. Everybody is here today. It's so great to have you all here. I'm really excited about the giveaways today because, I mean, that is a pretty substantial box. And you've got a nice bunch of those new colors from DecoArt. So there's 4 in each of those boxes, 4 of the new colors in each of those boxes. And plus all the other goodies. I mean, Dynasty provided us with black gold brushes. So we have great black gold brushes. We have all sorts of fun stuff. And not to mention you get one of the artist pins. We have these fabulous artist pins. These are just so fun. And so we have one of those in there as well. Plus a couple of, there's lots of goodies in that thing. So good day to get your name on that list. And there's Myrnie. Hi. She climbed a palm tree and waved to me. That's one way to get my attention. Get to the top of a tree. Awesome. And Cheryl Overgard and Tara Ellis. Hi, Tara. My heavens. And Peg Brandewey. Nice to see you. This is awesome. I love seeing all you guys on here. So for this piece, the first step is to do this blended background. And the colors that we're using for this are deep midnight blue. There's one, I think this is my favorite next to Bahama blue. I think this is my favorite blue. I love the tone of this. It's so rich, has that little bit of gray in it. It's just a fabulous blue. So that is our base coat. And we're going to apply 1 to 2 coats, and then you're going to give it a very light sanding. And the reason I say sand it is because when we do this blending, you don't want any brush marks or ridges or anything showing up. And I like to sand everything vertically, but always in one direction. No going sideways or anything like that. One direction. Give it a good sanding. We don't want to wear things down, but we do want to get this nice and smooth. There we go. I think that's enough. And then I'm going to use a soft cloth to wipe this down. It looks pretty good. Now I'm going to dampen a piece of paper towel or a shop towel to pull off any remaining dust. We just want to get this nice and smooth. There we go. Ooh, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to begin blending. Now you're going to need a couple of things to do this background. One of which is a good base coat brush. Now you all know I like my fugly brush. And the other thing you're going to need is one of these. This is a very poofy. I know we probably all have one this size and have never used it. And they always tell you to make sure that your big mop brushes stay dry, but not in this case. So, nice big soft mop brush. So, here we go. The color we're going to work with is Bahama Blue. Of course it is, because it's me. I love Bahama Blue. And it's a wonderful contrast. Now, the other thing that we're going to be using today is this. This is glazing medium. This kind of acts like a quick dry extender, for lack of a better term. So we're going to use a small amount of that. I'm going to put a little puddle of that on my palette. And I'm going to take my base coating brush. And it's wet. And we're going to put a nice coat of Bahama Blue up here. And you'll notice that I'm sort of letting it fade out a little bit, coming down. I don't want this to be a solid block. Now, the bottom of this is going to come to about 2/3 of the way down. So I don't want this to be completely solid down here. There we go. Now I'm going to dry this and then we're going to put another coat on. For obvious reasons, we need to get another coat on here because we're not getting full coverage at the top. So I want to make sure that it's good and dry. And then I'm going to put another coat on because I want full coverage up top here. Right there. So it should be fully opaque at the top. And then it's going to sort of fizzle out about there. See? So fully opaque up top. It's going to fizzle out about 1/3 of the way down. Now I'm going to take my dirty brush and a little bit of that glazing medium. And I'm going to bring a little of that in, just like that. Now this is just the glazing medium and the dirty brush. I haven't put any more paint on. Now I'm going to use my big old mop brush. I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of glazing medium. And I'm going to work in a circular fashion, like so. And I'm going to pull some color down. Here we go. Oh, it's not cooperating today. There we go. You ever have a day? I'm having a day. I've had a whole week. Anybody else had a whole week? Okay. I have to rinse my brush. Now, I've rinsed my brush out, my big fluffy. And then I'm going to get some of my this is that midnight blue. And I am barely touching the surface. Just barely. And I am bringing some of that blue back down all the way to the bottom. Now I've got a wet edge on both sides. And I'm going to do this. You're just tickling the surface and forming like a little crosshatch. Here we go. Very, very light. And you're going to clean that brush out on a rag or a soft cloth often. Here we go. Now, because you're working with a glazing medium, it keeps the paint wet. And so I'm just cross-hatching and letting those two colors meld. And you have to clean the brush so that you don't end up with streaks of one color invading the other. You just want a soft blend. Oof, goodness. See what I mean? There we go. I have days where color just does not want to cooperate. I'm having one. Good Lord. There we go. Pick up a little more dark blue. This took 2 seconds the other day. But today it's decided it doesn't want to work for me. So I'm just going to soften that a little. There we go. Yeah, faded backgrounds can be a little troublesome. The other day, it was very humid in here. Today, it is not. And now I'm getting here. Clean out my brush. On the upside of all of this, it is just paint. So I cleaned out my brush. Oh, and I've got hairs. This is another downside to use one of these Hake mops. They shed. However, that is okay. Now I've got okay, starting to work. Good morning. Oh, you know, I live on the East Coast, so it's much like the West Coast, Pacific Northwest, we get heavy rain. Now, this morning was lovely and dry. We're going to get rain tonight. So we shall see. Okay, I think I've got it now. It's not quite as soft as I wanted it, but you know, it's not too bad. I wanted that really delicate transition. Oh, headed for 90s today. We're oh, looky, looky. Now it's doing it. Took it long enough. So I'm just literally tickling the surface with this brush. There we go. Some days it works like nothing. No problem. Other days, hello. Let's see how much we can embarrass Tracy today. Oh, my stars. Okay, I'm going to dry this because if I don't, it's just going to continue. But having said that, it gives me another opportunity. I'm going to dry this and then I'm going to show you how to get hair out of here. Oh, Karen, absolutely. Because the lack of humidity affects everything. It affects your surface. It affects absolutely everything. So if you're struggling to get floating, good floating, whatnot, it's because the moisture is being pulled right out of your brush. Okay. Now, there is a ton of hair stuck in this thing because my brush is shedding. And it's mostly breakage. It's not not the brush coming apart. So I'm going to grab my little sander, this little thing here, and I'm just going to gently sand my surface here to remove some of these hairs. There we go. Whew. That's not too bad. It's not as pretty as I wanted it to be, but it will do the trick. There we go. So we've got a nice clean surface now. Whew. So, here we go. I'm going to dry this. Judy, this is, you can get these on Amazon. This is just the handiest little rig. Oh yeah. I like the fast. Yeah, water does not cut it. Nope. I agree, Sherry. That sander is available on Amazon. And for the life of me, do you think I can remember what it's called? Anybody? What is this thing called? I keep wanting to call it a tiger, but that's not right. Thank you, a gator. I knew it was a critter. There's my partner in crime. So we have our blended background. It's not as soft as I wanted it to be, but obviously the humidity is not cooperating with me today. Thank you, ladies. I couldn't remember the name of it. But it's an absolutely awesome. There's Janice. Hi, Janice. And Vicky Osmus. Oh, Home Depot has them too. I'm going to have to check now. Because this is a great little rig. Really. So now we're going to talk about tracing and transferring. Now I reduced mine a little bit because I had a hard time getting it centered. So I'm going to just flute that roughly the middle of the surface. And then I'm going to use a piece of painter's tape to hold it in place. Just like that. Now, because it's a lighter surface, lighter and dark, I'm going to show you a trick how to do this when you're working on light and dark surfaces. Because a lot of the time, you can't see the lighter colored graphite on a dark surface, and you can't see the darker colored graphite on the dark surface. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I have a sheet of my darker graphite. Oh, come on. I'm going to put that over the lighter area, and I'm going to use the white graphite I have two left hands today. And I'm going to use the lighter graphite on the darker area. Comme ça. Hi, Carol. Now, I use a red graphite, not a red graphite, a red Uniball Signo. This is a 0.38, which means it has that really fine point on the end of it. I use it in red ink because I can see where I've been. So it helps you with accuracy, and it helps you see where you've already been, where you've already traced. And then you use medium to light pressure. You don't have to press hard with this. The one thing I don't use that a lot of people do is tracing paper. I usually will make a photocopy of my line drawing just on standard copy paper. Simply because I find that tracing paper stretches and it really doesn't give you an accurate transfer. So I prefer working with just the straight copy paper, because then you only have one piece of paper to concern yourself with. And then I'm going to trace. Again, I'm using medium to light pressure. You don't have to press hard to do this. And you don't need to put in all of those teeny tiny details either. Just make sure that your lines are clear and clean. I think it was last week. I was tracing my line drawing and I realized that I put my graphite paper in upside down. Common error. It's, right up there with dropping your paintbrush in your coffee cup. For a lot of people, it's simply they use a tracing paper or a vellum so that they can see where their line drawing is placed in relation to the surface. I tend to cut away the excess paper so that I always, because it drives me nuts, not being able to see how things are placed. And I don't like dealing with a lot of paper, so here we go. Oh my goodness, we have a lot more people today. Patricia Baxter, hello from Florida. And Andres Alva, hi. Good to have you with us. Yeah, I cut away the excess. Like I said, I make a photocopy of my line drawing, and then I cut away the excess so that it fits within the confines of the surface, because I just find it frustrating to work with that much around, and I can easily see where things go. Oh, no. Tracing black over black is so frustrating because you can't see where you've been. And I love my red pen for a couple of reasons. Using that 0.38 has a very fine point, and so the transfer is very fine. You don't get this heavy, thick lines like you do from a stylus or from a ballpoint pen. And this to me gives you a much cleaner tracing. And I just like the effect of it. Not to mention that it's so much easier to clean up graphite lines when they're fine. It's when they're heavy, they're frustrating. And in this one, you kind of want to take your time to get those line drawings accurate. Doing them too quickly or too heavily tends to make things harder for you in the end. If your line drawings and your transfer are accurate, then your piece is going to come out really nice. Now the fun part about this design, I have the words Home Sweet Home down here. If you don't want this as a sign and just want the floral, just leave out the lettering. And I chose something a bit more subdued and small and not, not in my face, because I would prefer it that way. I like the subtlety of this. I think that appeals to me a lot. Now, daisies are one of the first things that decorative painters learn to paint. We're taught very basic comma strokes, how to load the brush, how to perform the stroke, the mechanics of the stroke, how things are laid out. Those are one of the very first things that we were taught. So just because it's a simple project, just because it's something as simple as daisies, which are quite simple to paint, they don't have to be elaborate. And I think to a great extent, nobody really expects them to be as realistic when you're first starting out, and that's fine. But I do think that the design doesn't have to be naive or simplistic. I think that the overall design can be a bit more elaborate, even for an absolute for beginner. And so I wanted something that had an elegant feel to it, that would be simplistic to paint, using basic comma strokes and basic techniques. So that is why we have this. I like the elegance of this one. Even though it's daisies, there's something elegant about the way these flowers sit. They've been arranged, and that appeals to me. And I wanted a nice vertical sign. My pal Deb created this for me. She knows how my brain works. And if that doesn't scare you, it should. So she knows that I like things with a bit more of an elegant edge, or a home decor type edge to it. That's one of the first places that my brain goes. So when I told her I wanted something vertical and roughly the size, she knew exactly what I wanted. And why? That's the really funny part. There we go. Oops. Almost there. Gotta have those little flip overs in our daisies. I think it just completes them. And then I'm going to come over here. And do our ribbon. Now I'm going to put my lettering on because I like lettering. Now, I have a little something for you all in the downloads section, in the free downloads section on my website. There is a sunflower pin project sheet in there that you can download at your leisure. It went up this morning. We've got the little blanks on the website as well. Plus we have all of the e-packets on sale. So if you're looking for certain patterns in e-patterns, then by all means. And we have a Mom's Rock coupon code on the website. So if you are ordering anything, make sure that you use the coupon code. Et voila. So by using those two sheets at the same time, et voila, I've got my line drawing in both colors and I can see them all. That's the big deal. Got to be able to see everything. Awesome. So, look at that. Line drawing in gray over the light color and in white over the dark color. Super, super easy. What is this? I got a pink computer chair for Mother's Day. Oh my goodness. And Sharon Klein. Hi, Sharon. And Lizzie. Purple pen, red pen. Just a color that contrasts well. Something that you can see well. Works really, really, really well. I love these. These 0.38s, the really nice fine ones. So let's talk about shadows. So we have this great color called Stormy. I love this color. It's a great tone. This is this one was new last year. And it's a beautiful blue, but it has a really nice transparent edge to it. It's not quite opaque. You would think it would be, but it isn't. And I'm going to use a round brush for this. So we have some lovely leaves here. These nice pointed leaves. And I'm going to use a little bit of glaze. I'm using the Jo Sonja glaze. And we're going to thin this out quite a bit. I want it very thin. Very watery. This is one of the reasons I like a glaze, because I can really thin out my glaze a significant amount. And I'm putting a nice little dropped shadow behind that leaf. And I'm going to put one here as well. Now I'm just pressing down on a round. And I'm following the shape of that leaf. And then just like that. And that might even be a little too dark, but it's fine. So that color is going to create sort of a shadow underneath and to the left of our daisies. And I'm using a little bit of that color like this, just in a couple of locations to the left of the daisy. Now that little shadow, and like I said, I think this one might be a little bit dark, but that's okay. That little shadow is going to give this that little elevation, that make it float off of the surface. And then down here, I'm going to do the same thing, just a light little bit to indicate that. And it's simple. It's not an over-the-top shadow. And it is super thin. I'm going to show you here. Look at this. Very watered down. Almost milky. And then you can take it, make it a little bit stronger for this blue area. And just underneath that stem, we're going to follow the shape of the stem in behind the leaf. Just like that. And we're not going over the top with this. It's just a very light little shadow. You can see, even on that dark blue, that little bit of Stormy is enough of a change. So there we go. That is our first shadow. Oh, Debbie, I'm with you. I really like Stormy too. Hi, Joan. So I'm going to dry this really well, and then we're going to talk about base coating. Now, for an absolute beginner, there are a couple of rules when it comes to base coating. And we tend to forget them a lot when it comes to base coating these surfaces, these smaller areas. So I'm going to grab our base color for the leaves, which is going to be a little bit of this avocado toast. This has quickly become one of my favorite greens. So whenever you're going to be base coating something, you're going to need to thin the paint out a little bit. So I use a little bit of Jo Sonia's glaze and make a nice little puddle off to the side. And when you base coat, there's a rule of thumb. There should be paint in your brush, not on your brush. This is paint in the brush. Now I'm going to find another small round so I can show you. This is paint on the brush. If it looks like it's got texture and a body and it's changed the shape of the brush, this is not well loaded. This means you have paint on the brush. When you can see all of the bristles and the color, this is paint in the brush. And it does make a difference. So load your brush means you get lots of color in the brush. And you're going to fill in the space with that green. And each of those leaves gets that coat of green. Just one for the time being. Now I'm using a small round brush. You can use whatever you're most comfortable with. If you prefer to work with perhaps a larger liner or a smaller round, you can absolutely do that. Now, in the pattern, I believe I used, I can't remember now what I used for the base coat. I think it was Lush Green. I love all of these tones. Oh my goodness, I did not have it in there. Let's see what the leaves say. Aloe. I used aloe. Oh my goodness. I used aloe. I really need to read my own pattern when I'm... So there we are. Aloe. Aloe's a great color. I don't know why I forgot about that, but it's quite a bit lighter than what I've used here. Yes, Carol, we've had some technical issues on this end, so I'll get that sorted for you. So, aloe, or you can use avocado toast. I gravitate towards avocado toast, which is probably why I went for it right off the bat. Now you're going to need to use a smaller brush. I've used liners to do this. And the best tip that I can give you about base coating is to try and always pull the paint in the same direction. You've seen, what brush am I using? What size? It's a 2 round. No worries, Carol. We will take care of it. I made a joke earlier this week about, gremlins. tech gremlins. I have been, I have had more issues in the last week. Email from the website was not going where it needed to go. So we've completely overhauled our inbox, and it's going to be live shortly. Actually, I think it is live. So if you need to reach me through the website, you can do it through the contact. They're still finishing up the message system, the little bubble, speech bubble. So that'll be fixed soon too. But if you need to reach me in reference to an order, the best way to do it is through the contact list or through the contact button on the website. Or you can simply email me at tracy@tracymoreau.net. If you have a problem with a download, if you're missing something from an order, whatever it is, you can reach me through that. So now that that's fixed, it's good news. But we have just been our website went down a couple of weeks ago, and we've just been like endless issues since then. So we're finally getting the bulk of them fixed. So thank heavens. And a lot of it we can't fix. We have to rely on somebody else to take care of it. So it's frustrating. But regardless, it is all, as they say, took care of. So I've got that first coat of that green. Now, as I said, and Barb was kind enough to point out to me that I did not use the avocado in the pattern. Thank you for that, because I blanked. I grab it. It's instinctive. So we've got that first coat of green on. And we've got a couple of little stems here that need taken care of. There we go. So we have one coat of that green on. Attack gremlins. Oh my God. You need to rent a 9-year-old. Yes, I agree. I mean, I have Renee here, and he is flippin' amazing. But a lot of this had to do with the website, so it was just frustrating as all get out. So we've got, look at that, we've got shadows in. We've got leaves. And again, what I love about this, using that fine line, look how fine those lines are for tracing. So when it comes time for me to do the erasing, there's less work to trying to take it care of. So, but yep. So we also have the ribbon. Good morning, Linda. Nelda, some days I amaze myself. And then I try to get out of the car wearing a seatbelt, you know. It's So I'm going to do the same thing to this almondine color. I love this. It's like a linen tone. It's just a really pretty, warm, not quite white though. It's not quite a white. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I am using just enough paint to fill the brush. The brush has paint in it, not on it. I have always loved that explanation for loading a brush. And it does make a difference. It's so much easier to move paint. And again, I like to leave that little sliver between segments. It makes a difference. You're going to cover up that little sliver anyway when it comes time to add your shading to things. Now, by going in one direction only, the next coat will cover it fully. So there we have that first one. I missed a spot there. And of course I grabbed the round brush that's got that little stray hair at the end that wants to go sideways. It doesn't want to go the same direction as everything else. Heaven forbid. Here we are. I love this wonky ribbon. I just love the look of it. I just think it makes things interesting. Here we go. Now I've got a little spot. Hello from Southampton in the UK. Rory Morgan, welcome. Glad to have you with us. So there, I'm going to put a little green in there, and then there's a little piece of that ribbon right there. There we are. Now I'm going to dry that, and we're going to quickly put another coat on. Oh, looking for your phone while you're talking on it? I've done that. Searched my desk while I've got... Yeah, talking to somebody on my phone and tearing my desk apart trying to find it. I do that with my glasses, walk around with them on my head and realize I can't find my glasses. I wonder why. So the second coat of this almondine, it gives you a lovely, 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 fully opaque coat. And it's so pretty, but it's also an opportunity to, correct anything. Base coating is that thing that is absolutely necessary and none of us like to do because we just want to get to the fun stuff. Just the board that I'm working on, this is the vertical sign board. And this is a 12 by 4.5. We have these on the website. And we also have the sunflower blanks are up there too. And we have more of those coming as well. Look at that. Hi, Lady Di. Oh, yeah. I've misplaced my glasses on my own head numerous times. Now you'll find if you're using a little bit of that Joe Sonia's, that fast dry glaze, your paint moves so much nicer and so much smoother that it makes your base coating easy. And then you don't end up with tons of those ridges and rough edges. Rough edges drive me nuts. There always seems to be like a little bump at the edge of things, and it's just, I've got to sand everything because it drives me bananas. Here we are. Look at that. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And we're going to talk about the stroke work for these daisies. Now there's two different types of brushes that you can use to do this type of flower. And one of my favorites to work with is a really small filbert. So I've got this one. This is a number 4 filbert. Little teeny tiny thing. Great. And then you can use a round. Now, I know I've got another round in here somewhere. One of my favorite rounds is this wee little one right here. This one is from Evo Art. I find myself coming to this one. She can hear May's. No, it's not walk time. She's barking at somebody on the road. When she goes into guard dog mode, she's barks at everything going down the street. Ooh. Oh, that tea is good today. So, Evo Art. This one here is a small round. This is a number 2. Or I have a number 4 filbert. We're going to talk a little bit about... Oh, my stars and girders. Of course, I can't find my paper, right? So we're going to talk about a comma stroke. Comma strokes are absolute basics. I'm going to set this aside to dry. And we're going to talk about comma strokes. So if you're going to use a round brush, it's a really good idea to practice with both a filbert and a round brush. Now, the round brush, the mechanics are pretty simple. I'm going to use that one to paint the flowers, but I need a bigger one to demonstrate with. Here we go. So this one is also a round. It's a number 5. So just laughing because they're trying to keep Maze quiet. So I'm going to put a little bit of white on my palette because we're going to paint daisies. Now, we're going to start with this one up here. And so I'm going to show you how that's done. So when you load a brush, again, it's a good idea to have paint in the brush, not on the brush. So your brush needs to be well loaded. Just like that. See, you can still see bristles. There's no gob of paint on it. So a typical comma stroke is done. You have to learn to do them from left to right. So you hold the brush almost straight up and down. You press down immediately on the brush, pull back, and roll the brush to its tip. Now this is a teardrop, just done with that first roll. So you press down, roll the brush, and pull up onto the point so that you get sort of that teardrop shape. For the comma stroke, it's the same movement, except you're going to pull the stroke like that. Now, I'm exaggerating it a little bit. Like a comma, hence the name. Just like that. And it's a really good idea to grab some old construction paper. What color can be used if they don't have... You can just use warm white. I'll show you when we're doing the daisies. So, comma stroke, comma stroke, comma stroke. And it's just that mechanics. You push down, pull back, lift up. Push down, pull back, lift up. So that it's pushing down to open up the brush. As you're pulling the stroke, you're releasing the pressure. So that you get nice wide teardrop And then as you release the pressure and come right up onto the point of the brush, you get a teardrop. Same movement for the comma stroke. Press down, let the brush open up, pull back slowly and up onto the point, and then you're going to add a turn to it, just like that. Roll it, lift it all at once. So it does take practice to do this, but when you get it, you get it. And then you never forget it. What it teaches is brush control. How to turn the brush, manipulate the brush. It's the mechanics of the stroke. And you have to learn to do it in both directions. Left and right. So it takes tremendous amount of practice, but this is essentially what daisies teach you. So I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to switch over to my filbert. And we're going to pick up a little bit of color with that too. Now, filberts are fabulous because they're already rounded at the end. And as you roll the brush, it just naturally forms that point. So with practice, you get very proficient at making comma strokes using either a filbert or a round brush. Now in our case, we're going to be using a color called sand gray. I know, who paints a gray daisy? You'll see why in a moment. We're going to use a variation of the comma stroke to paint these daisies. So you're going to start with the petals at the back of the flower. And you're going to press down, and instead of rolling the brush, you're just going to pull it back. Just like that. So we're going to form those petals. And you may notice that I have not reloaded my brush. There's a reason for it. So I've done all of the backward petals, the petals at the back of the flower. Simple little stroke. If you look closely, you see how it faded out towards the center. So the bulk of the color is out at the tip, and it fades as it comes into the center of the flower. And each daisy that you paint is going to get that same treatment. And you follow the shape of the petal. Now we have one here that has a little flip over. And I just put my finger in that one. And again, we're just doing that back row. Is there a template? Nope, no stencils, sorry. Chew marks on your stencil package. Here we go. That gray. Don't panic. The gray, I know it's gray. It seems like an odd color for a daisy, but trust me. Trust me, trust me. That little bit of practice with a filbert or a round makes such a difference to the flower. And then we've got this little one down here. We have one tucked in underneath one. There we go. And I'm just doing, as you notice, I'm just doing that back row of petals. And there is a reason, I promise you. Here we go. And we've got this little one down here at the bottom. So this one's got a little flip in it. And again, I'm just doing that back row of petals like so. Just the back row. We're going to make this a whole lot simpler for you guys. I think daisies are probably my favorite flower. And so I tend to use them a lot when I'm designing. Oh my goodness. Now we've got a little bit of baby duck. Love this color. The color that the color that I'm using for these daisy petals is sand gray. And what's for dinner tonight, Debbie? Dinner tonight we are having buttermilk chicken breasts, breaded. And I'm thinking I'm going to make poutine, which is a Canadian dish. Most Canadians know what that is. Well, all Canadians know what that is. Some Americans might know. So yeah, we're having poutine with buttermilk chicken breast and making a kale salad. That's for supper tonight. So our little center here is going to be done with a little bit of baby duck. And I like to just tap it in because I like a little texture on the center. So I'm just going to tap that little bit of yellow in. And I'm going to do the same thing for this little one down here. And the center here. And you notice that I'm just filling in that center. I'm not worrying about whether or not it's perfect. That kind of thing is just, perfection is overrated. So there's our little center. A little bit of baby duck. There's Norma. Happy little daisies. Yes, couldn't agree more. So I'm going to dry this. And we're going to create some really pretty little centers. I'm a big fan. I love this color. This baby duck is just, it's such a yummy yellow. And it's so pretty. And daisies are so happy. Daisies are happy. And because I tap that in, I'm going to take a minute to make sure it's really dry. You like the ribbon? Your favorite part of the whole thing? I love the ribbon. Thank you. But I'm a big fan of daisies. So we're going to use a little bit of orange flame. It's my favorite orange. So a little touch, don't need a lot. And I'm going to use a 3/8 angled shader. I just wanted a nice small angle. If I can find my favorite one, there it is. And a little bit of glaze. I like glaze in my brush, and a tiny bit of orange flame. You're going to blend this out quite a bit. And we're going to put a little float. Oh, we need a bit more than that. Little float of orange flame right at the bottom. And let the float come up about halfway. And I let my surfaces a little too warm yet. There we go. There we go. Orange flame. It is just such a nice warm tone. And that's the center. Look at the centers of our daisies. They're popping right up. Now, we're going to dry that. There we go. So we're going to use the tip of our little round. You can use a round, you can use a liner, but we're going to do a series of little dots, and they need to be tiny. So I'm using oh, goodness, I need to shake my asphaltum. So a little dab of asphaltum, and we're going to take those little dots, and we're going to do just tiny little dots of asphaltum, just like that, on the orange. You don't want to cover all of it, but want a little bit. Just little dots of asphaltum. Da, 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 da. Tiny little dip dots. And then we're going to grab that saffron yellow. This is like my favorite in your face yellow. Nope. There's no center on that bottom daisy. So we're going to take saffron yellow now. And we're going to work up and onto the baby duck. So right about where the asphaltum stops, you're going to use those little dots of saffron, like so. Right up onto the baby duck. Now I'm going to dry those centers for now. Oh, in here. Yeah, I did forget that one. Well spotted. Whoops. Oh, goodness. Load the brush and didn't blend. There we are. It's an easy fix, luckily for me. And I do like the tiny dots versus the big heavy ones, because we're just creating a texture. So, and then the saffron, whoops. That's a nice little texture. I love the texture of this. It just adds a nice little texture to the center. We're not done yet, so. Thanks, Sharon. So I think those are just about dry. I don't want to. There we go. So our next step is to shade the petals at the background. And we're going to do that with a little bit of Bahama Blue. Now, the trick to these daisies is that it's going to be a little bit repetitious, but it's the adage of working from back to front that makes such a difference. So you can take a little float of Bahama Blue, nice and tight, close to the center, just like this. Nice and tight. That color can go back quite a ways. You can go almost half the width of those petals. Look at that. So a nice little float around the center of the flower. I love Bahama Blue for this. It's just the perfect shading color. For these petals. A little bit of Bahama Blue. There's just something about getting this depth. And I think that's the trick to this, to painting these daisies, is getting that depth at the back of the flower. So we've put that first shadow in, which is a little bit of Bahama Blue. But it looks like we're getting some interference here. Okay. And then we're going to take a very tiny amount of asphaltum. Just a teeny tiny float. You're going to blend it out so it's not a full strength. And you're going to bring that color around the center as well. So it's darkest right at the back. Little float of asphaltum. And it's very thin. Most of the time when I'm working with dark colors, I tend to water them right down. I thin them right out. I would rather do things 2 or 3 times till I get to where I want to be than to overdo it on the first shot. And asphaltum is a very dark brown, so you don't want to, hammer it on and then not be able to control the color. So I put a little float of that asphaltum over top of that Bahama Blue. And now comes the scary part. I've got sand gray for the petals. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to pick up just a small amount of warm white. And we're going to come to the tip of the petal and we're going to pull it back very abruptly. Let the color run out. We want the bulk of that color at the tip of the petal. And this is just a simple overstroke. Just like that. Look at our daisy. So simple overstroke. It's abbreviated stroke. There's not a lot of color in the brush. So look at how bright our daisy got all of a sudden. And we still have that shadow back there and the separation. But that little bit of warm white, again, just an abbreviated stroke. You don't want all of the whole petal to turn white. It's just the bulk is going to be at the tip of the petal. And it's just a light stroke, just like that. And this is what gives your petals that sort of almost soft, reflective look. It's very little paint. Deb, if you don't have sand gray, you can use warm white as your base color and then highlight it with titanium white. So the step that I'm doing right now with warm white, you would do with titanium white instead. All you really need is just that little bit of contrast. And it really doesn't take much. Most of the contrast that you're seeing here is created by that shadow in there. So look at our daisies. Our daisies are coming to life. Again, abbreviate the stroke. It's just a little overstroke. Let the paint run out. And remember, we've got this little one here, this little fold over. So pretty. So now we're going to create a shadow at the front. So I'm going to take a little bit of thin asphaltum. And I'm going to put a shadow right at the bottom of that center. Just a little float of asphaltum, thinned out. And this is going to give us that depth we want. So, I'm going to grab my filberts. Hi, Libby. Thanks for joining us. Oh, Muse is such a pretty color. Red spice, yeah. So now that we've done those back petals, now it's time to do these front ones. Well, this front one, slightly elevated. So it's above, kind of heart-shaped in a way. Then we have one that goes this way. And then we have one here. So we've got gray petals towards the front. Oops. Oh, I've got too much paint on my brush. There we go. Let's try that again. So, I remember what I said about having paint in the brush and not on the brush? Yeah, well, I didn't take my own advice. There we go. So, there we go. So that's a comma stroke that comes back towards the center. So comma stroke and then back towards the center of the flower like so. So it just sneaks in there. Here we go. And this part is a little touchy because we're overlapping petals and you don't want to bury them completely. So I'm using my filbert. I'm always fascinated by this, that how much fun this is to do. So we've got a petal here, and then this has got, again, one of those heart-shaped petals. There we go. Again, I got it carried away. Now, this little one over here, we didn't float that. We didn't put the color in. And this one is actually not quite open all the way. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the others. We're going to put a float of Bahama blue in that area. Don't worry about being too neat and tidy with this one. We just want to give a little separation. And I'm going to dry this. And then I'm going to use a little bit of asphaltum in here just to darken it a little. Of course, it's hot, so it's not floating properly. There we go. A little bit of asphaltum. And I'm going to put a little asphaltum right at the foreground here of our daisy. There we go. So I'm going to dry this really well. And the same steps that we took with these daisies up here, I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. And again, I'm going to pull it and abbreviate the stroke. So it just sort of runs out of paint towards the center of the petal. There we go. So that's our first part. Then I'm going to take that sand gray. And I'm going to pull in our other petals. Oops. So it's almost there. We will get the highlight over top of that. But we're going to come up here to this one. Now this one you're seeing the back of the daisy. This one's a little more complex for the stroke work. We're going to use the edge of the brush for this. So instead of using the rounded over portion of the filbert, as you can see there, I'm going to turn the brush so it's like this on its side. And I'm going to press down and then I'm going to pull back on the chisel edge of the brush. So I'm going to press and come back towards the center with just that edge, like so. Now this little petal right in the front here, This one is actually leaning toward you. Like that. So I'm just going to stroke some color in and we'll shade it accordingly. So there's the back of our flower. By using that chisel edge and then pulling the brush, we still get that rounded over top of the stroke, but it's easier to get that tighter turn, that long elongated point on the comma stroke. Oh my goodness. Hi, Linda. Iris, oh my goodness. See, we're all in the same boat. The gremlins are following us. So our little flower here, I'm going to do the same thing, but again, I'm abbreviating that stroke. So bright white at the end and just follow the stroke. We just want a brighter tip on the petal. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one here. So we've got the white tip on that one, but we need it on this one. The nice part is that the ones at the foreground here, they can be a little brighter white than the ones in the back. And now I'm coming to the front. That little abbreviated stroke is what helps give those daisies all of that depth. Hi, Linda. Housework when you could be painting? Oh, my stars. So again, that really abbreviated stroke, we just sort of want that highlight at the edge or at the end or the tip of the petal. And they're daisies. They're fun. Such fun. And anywhere that you feel it needs a little brightening, you can bring in a little white. So if you find your overstroke wasn't bright enough at the tip, yes, it is very wrong, Linda. Then you can just make it a little brighter. So look how simple and how pretty those are. I like daisies. They just don't need to be as simplistic. They can look elegant. They can look very elegant. Use the side of that brush. Doesn't hurt it at all. Oops, there we go. So much to paint, so little time. Isn't that the truth? So at this point, we can come into the center of our flowers with a little bit of white. Just a little. And I love to bring that little bit of white out past the edges of the center. Just makes them look a little softer. And so much more fun. So if I can put little dots of warm white in there. I love that it comes past the edge of the petals, the edge of the center, and out onto the flower. It just gives it a fluffier look. A little more elegant. Pretty, pretty. And if you want to add a little extra fire, come in with a little bit of orange flame. A few little dots in that shaded area just gives that center a little more heat so that it doesn't look too heavy. Bring some of that up onto the yellow. So in the centers, you've got orange flame and baby duck and warm white and saffron yellow and asphaltum, and it just gives them such a pretty center. Nice and light. I love it. Of course, I put my finger in the white paint, so I've got white paint off to the side here. So we're going to do a little bit of shading on our ribbon. Now our ribbon is, again, it's almondine. We're going to use a little bit of asphaltum. It's one of my, it is probably the color I use the most. I think I have it in every single pattern I've ever painted. And we're going to start by shading into those folds on the ribbon with a little bit of asphaltum. And this is what gives that ribbon, you know, its considerable shape. And I love that. I love that this ribbon has this twisted effect, that it just sort of rolls around. And I'm going to give this a bit more. There we go. And then, of course, we've got a shadow over here. And we're going to shade around this petal because there's a nice little flip in the ribbon right there. So floating. I've been doing a lot of floating, but haven't really been talking about floating. And floating is that beautiful transition from dark to light and vice versa. It's an ability to lay color in with a lot of control. And I have a few tips for floating that I think work exceptionally well. One of them is to use a sponge. And I love my sponge technique because it works beautifully. And we all have hundreds of these kicking around the house. I know that. I buy them by the bale. So this is a household sponge. Just one of those cellulose sponges that we all have in the kitchen. They're super simple. I mean, they're inexpensive. We buy them in bundles. I get one, soak it in water, and then I squeeze as much water out of it as I possibly can. And this is the trick to brush loading, is get your brush wet. Let it soak in the brush basin for as long as you want it to. You can sit there, 15, 20 minutes. When your brush is wet, the biggest problem that we have is getting that moisture balance, the water balance in it. And a lot of people will, use paper towel or whatnot. Well, in general, the paper towel, when it's wet, will no longer pull moisture out. And when it's dry, it pulls too much out. So I use a wet or damp sponge, and you just touch both sides of the brush, the wet brush, to the surface, and then pick up your paint. Now, in this case, I'm using asphaltum. And this method lets you get just the right amount of moisture in your brush for floating. It makes it so much easier to get that balance of moisture that you need to float well. Now, when I first started I used to paint in oils, and when I first started working in acrylics, I found floating to be the most frustrating thing. And the trick to it was getting that balance of moisture in the brush. For me, that's exactly what it was. It was getting that right amount of moisture in the brush. And it does make floating so much simpler. So rinse your brush, soak it in water, touch it to the moist sponge, pick up your paint. If you feel you've still got too much moisture in the brush, even when it's loaded, you can just touch it to the surface. Having the damp sponge means it will only pull off a small amount. It won't pull all of the moisture out of your brush. So if you struggle with it, try using the moist or the damp sponge technique. It works a treat. Oh, goodness. I am telling you, I'm an absolute genius today. I've got paint everywhere. So, would you use the same thing with a sponge if you use Joe Sonia? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You're going, at the end of your painting session, you're going to go rinse this out anyway. So yes, if you're using the Joe Sonia fast dry glaze, like I do daily, just touch it to the surface, both sides, and then load your brush. When you're done painting for the day, take this into your wash area where you clean your brushes or what have you, and just rinse this out with a little cool water, and you're ready to go the next time. It is a very, very handy technique. Even the beater likes my tips. Nice. So everything's starting to look pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with this thus far. So we've got our ribbon shaded, and we have our flowers almost done. We still have a few little things to do. But now let's talk about these leaves. So I've got a color called Black Forest Green. And my bottle is almost empty. You're welcome, Connie. If it makes techniques, if it makes methods easier, I'm all for it. So I've got a brush fully loaded with just enough water. I'm using a little bit of Black Forest Green. So I'm going to shade the bottom of this leaf. Nice little U-shaped float. Get a nice little shadow at the base of this leaf. I'm also going to use that to push the leaves back from the flowers a little bit. A little shadow underneath those petals. Underneath the flower, that little shadow behind the leaf. Tiny thing, but very important. It decides where that leaf goes, whether it's in front of. I put it that way for a reason. I wanted this to sort of weave underneath the petal and past the stem of the flower. The sponge, Bonnie, that technique works very well. And it's an inexpensive way to do it. So all of the shading in behind these flowers and on those stems is done with that Black Forest Green. So into my glaze, touch the surface, pick up a little paint, blend it on my palette. Not enough paint. There we go. We've got a stem. I'm going to pull a little float along the underside of that stem. There we go. Now this little leaf over here has got sort of a twist in it. So I'm putting a float there. And it needs a little color there. Wherever it tucks in and hides. So I've got those little shadows in. And I'm going to take my, I need to put some small leaves on the back of this flower. I'm just doing that with a little round brush. It's just 3 or 4 little strokes of that green. And we're going to do the same thing to this one here because we are looking at the back of the flower. There we go. So it's just 3 or 4 little strokes. They don't have to be, they don't have to be overly perfect. Yeah. So we've got that nice little shading in. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my midnight blue and I'm going to thin this out quite a bit. Ooh, it'd be helpful if I take all the paint out of it first. There we go. Into some glaze, touch on my surface. Perfect. So I've got a little bit of that midnight blue. Now I want to push this flower back a little. So I want to use a little bit of that midnight blue to separate this one, these two from that one. And I do really like to have that darker shadow under the flower. And I'm using midnight blue because that's the same color as the background. And I kind of want these flowers to be tucked in there, if you know what I mean. So I'm happier with that. And then I want to separate this petal a little. Right in here, this one has kind of gotten a little out of control. So this is where you can go in and separate things. So if something is looking a little too close together or you don't have enough separation, you can come in and add a little float to separate some of those petals. And you can do it with either a little bit of asphaltum or you can use a little bit of that deep midnight blue. But either way, you're going to really thin this color out a little. You just need to separate petals a little bit. Sometimes they get a little lost. I'm using a little bit of asphaltum. And I was finding that this one was getting just a little too, that little one was getting lost in there. So I'm going to adjust a little bit. I'm going to bring a little more white into the tip of that petal, just to bring it forward a bit more. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Just a little bit of warm white. And it's just a touch. I'm not using much. It's just enough to change the value of the petal. So I deepened that shadow back there, and then I just popped that highlight a little, just to lift this flower off of the one underneath it. I was finding it was a little too close. And I have the same issue here. I'm finding that this little flower underneath is being overshadowed. So I want to separate this one from that one. And I want these petals to sort of look like they're commingling, if that makes any sense. So a little bit of asphaltum. I'm going to dry that. Nice thing is that you can putz with this until you're happy. And I like to putz. So I've got a spot here where I'm not happy with the flowers. They kind of look like they've run over each other. And I kind of want them to look as if they're commingling. So I'm going to separate the petals a little bit with just a little bit of shading and a little highlighting. I just want to create a little bit of contrast between the two. They're a little too close together as far as the color is concerned. So this little petal is over top of this little petal. And this petal is over top this petal. So I put a little asphaltum on there, and that separated the two. But now I'm going to take a little bit of warm white, and I'm going to brighten this one a little, brighten that one a little, and then I'm going to brighten this one. And so now they look separate. And that's all it took, was just a tiny adjustment to a shadow and a little adjustment to the highlight. Now we do have a little flip right here. And it doesn't really want to stand out. So I want to make it stand out. So I'm going to take a little bit of asphaltum and put a little shadow there. So now we've got that little shadow. Here we go. Much better. I was finding my daisies are a little lost. I think my strokes were a little too soft. Every once in a while, you just gotta, needs must, just soften up some points, shade between flowers a little bit more. Sometimes that's all it takes, just to make the flowers pop a little more, is just to separate some of those petals. And I was having an issue with that. So then I can come back in with a little bit of white. Whoops. A little too much white. There we go. There we go. Much better. See, now it's singing. So anytime that flowers, petals, especially something like daisies, if the petals look like they're too close together or they start to look like one large surface, sometimes all it takes is just adding a little more shading, a controlled shading, using a small amount of color. That's all it really takes, is just that little shading to make each of those petals stand out a little bit. And I'm barely using any color. There's very little color in my brush, but that's all it takes. So we have lovely daisies. I want to finish off this one here I'm using a little bit of Bahama blue to separate those two petals. And I want a little blue at the base of these petals here. And voila! Now we have a really pretty little flipped over petal right here, but it's not showing up. So I'm going to put a little more white in it. Good grief. I made a mess. Just needed, again, I needed to separate some petals here. And then I'm going to use a little bit of asphaltum. It's my cure-all. I can use asphaltum for everything. Ooh, potato salad. Oh, we're having buttermilk chicken breast and poutine and a kale salad. That's what we're having tonight. Here we go. So now we're going to, yeah, it is good. Now we're going to handle some highlights on our ribbon, and this is super simple. We're using a little bit of warm white, and on the highlight side, we're going to put a nice little float. Nice little float of warm white. Oh my God. I'm telling you, I put my finger into more paint today. Little float there. Come over here, top of the ribbon. I love how that little bit of warm white and that ribbon just starts moving. Little float of warm white. Just like that. I love the ribbon on this. I just think that it's a nice little addition. I love that little float of white. So the ribbon is super simple. It's just the 3 colors. Deborah, this is just on a piece of MDF. And you can paint on whatever you like. It can be canvas, it can be wood. This could be blown up, done larger on a large canvas. It would be so pretty. So we're going to move to highlighting our ribbon. And for that, we're using a little bit of Margarita. I love this color. I think it's my favorite green, highlight green. I like it because it's a little more transparent. And we're going to float the edges of these leaves like so. And I love how this stands out. You just looked up poutine? Poutine is it is a favorite Canadian dish. Canadians love it. If you're not familiar with it, poutine is French fried potatoes. They got to be good, like nice cut French fries. And they have to be nice and crispy. So I'm using that margarita to add a highlight to these leaves and all the way out to the point. Don't be shy with this color. It is just such a wonderful yellow-green. And it is a nice highlight color for this. I'm using it just to highlight the edges of the stems and out to the point on those leaves. Now I've used it to highlight these stems, but I'm going to show you something. Once I've got a little bit of margarita in my brush, I'm going to take a little bit of warm white. And I'm going to blend those two colors together. And I'm going to use that on the highlight edge of each of those leaves, like this. And on the stems. That is that brightest highlight. And we're almost done. We only have the lettering left to do. I'm going to brighten the highlight on our leaves, like so. Renee's adjusting my cameras because I kept moving things around.
How are your people today?
Oh, they are good.
Not a potato fan?
Well, not everybody is. We were just talking about tonight's menu.
Oh.
Yep. Buttermilk, chicken breast, and poutine.
Oh. Well, there's a nap in my future.
There we go.
Why is there a ball at the top of the stairs?
Because that's where your dog left it. There we go. So there's our highlights. Vicky says hi.
Hello.
Maze is trying to get through the cat door again. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to add just, a few little odds and sods as far as detail goes. Because I like my odds and sods. And I like the texture of around the centers to be quite light. I want to see a light center. So the only thing we have left is that lettering. And because we're working on such a dark blue, I'm going to use a little bit of Stormy. I love this color. Stormy is such a pretty, pretty blue. Lovely. Taz, the baby kitten. Taz is living up to her name. She is quite the handful, I can tell you. So I'm putting a float of, just a weak little float, actually, of that Stormy to the right side of all of these verticals. Just to the right. And it doesn't have to be much. You don't have to do a ton of stuff to this lettering. And then I'm going to grab one of my favorite things, which is my Posca pens. I love my Posca pens. Suzanne. Oh yeah, cardstock works great. So I love these little pens. I think that these things are just the bee's knees. This is the fine point Posca pens. They're just awesome. Hi, Anne. Happy Mother's Day. Oh, Taz, she is so flippin' cute. But she's a holy terror. It's like her mission in life to torment the dog. And she's entirely too smart for her own good. That's what worries us. She is something else. So I'm using a white 0.7 millimeter Posca pen. I love my Posca pens. And I chose a very simple font for this. I just think it's very clean, simple, and elegant, and it works very nicely for this. I didn't want a heavy font. I wanted something simple, informal, and easy to read. There we go. Which is important whenever you're doing something with lettering on it, is selecting fonts that are easy to read. There's beautiful fonts available out there for a huge number of projects. The downside, quite honestly, is that there are far too many that are not all that legible when you when push comes to shove. Now, I'm using a gold paint pen. Of course, I grabbed the one that doesn't work. Of course. I have like 5 million of these things. That's silver. Nope, this one will do. Yep, that's the one I wanted right there. I'm going to use it so that I push on the edge, the corner, with my paint pen, because I want just a thin little metallic border that's on the front of the piece. There we go. And any brand of metallic paint pen will work beautifully for this. This is one of my favorites. This is the Let's Resin brand. I just love their chrome markers are beautiful. So I just lean the pen forward as I'm going along the edge, and it gives me this nice little border all the way around. Just like that. Now I'm going to dry this really well, and then we're going to clean up graphite lines, and then we'll talk about finishing. This is a fun piece to paint. So, as I said, you take your time doing your stroke work, practice those comma strokes. You'll be amazed at how quickly. Yep. This is the Let's Resin chrome marker. And you can get them in a variety of different colors. My two favorites are the copper. This one is the copper one. I love this look. And the gold one. And they're absolutely fabulous. So this is completely dry. So I'm going to grab my favorite eraser. This is a Factus Black 18 eraser. And it takes off graphite like a dream. Black graphite, white black graphite, it doesn't matter. It will take off graphite like a dream. So you'll end up with these beautiful clean line drawings, beautiful clean paintings with no graphite, clean finished edges. Look at this. Clean your daisy. Clean, crisp leaves. Get all of that graphite off. All of your graphite. Clean up your lettering. Clean up your ribbon. And this last little bit, once you clean this up, this is where you can go in and fix up little boo-boos like me. Don't ask me how I did it, but I got a drop of sand gray up here. And I got a fingerprint here. And I do like to clean things up. I don't like things left, icky. And I managed to get purple. Oh, like Lord Almighty. So just go in with your whatever color you require to fix little baubles like me. Good Lord. There's always something. Crisp up edges if you must. Like edges of flowers that get a little too wonky, or, I don't know, little stray hair left a little bit of paint at the edge. This is where you get to clean up those things. You know? There we go. Like it never happened. I know. It's when you find an eraser that really works, and these really work. These are the Factus Black 18 erasers. And the reason I use them is because, one, they don't leave shiny spots on your surface. They don't wear through your paint, and they don't mark up dark surfaces, which I absolutely, oh Lord. I'm telling you. Ever have a day? I'm having a day. There we go. I had white paint in my hand. Tried to wipe something off and wiped paint on instead. So if you want something that's going to erase graphite easily without damaging or marring your surface, this is it. Absolutely love my Factus Black erasers. You can get them at Staples. You can get them at Hobby Lobby. Michaels carries them, and you can get them online via Amazon as well. Same with these. I love this marker, this gold paint pen. I use this for finishing edges on Christmas ornaments. I use it for finishing edges on pieces like this. Super easy. It goes on, it's an oil base, it dries quickly, it leaves a beautiful metallic sheen. It's a fantastic, and they're reasonably priced. So you're not paying the earth to get these. The other thing that I use a lot is this. This is the Jo Sonja Fast Dry Glaze Medium. I use this for everything. It is my base coating. I mix it with my base coats. I mix it with when I'm putting base coats on. I use it for blending. I use it for fine lining. I use it for floating and detail work. This is my everything medium. If you're looking for this, this is also available on josonja.com. You can find it in the States. They ship all over the place. Erica Joanne has this available on her website as well if you're in the States again. If you're Canadian, this is available from Country Bear Wood. They are based in Ontario, in Port Hope, I believe. And you can order through them as well. So, fantastic product. And then last but not least is the Surface. The Surface is available on my website. This is a 12 by 4.5 vertical sign is what it's called. And it's also available on Deb Antonic's site at a touch of primsy.ca, I believe it is. And so if you're in Canada, they're easy to get. And I do ship to the US and to the UK and even to Australia. I ship all over the place. So there you go. That is our piece for today. Renee should be up here anytime now to set up the wheel. I gotta find my phone. Let's text message him. It should be fun to text message him. Where am he? Let's send him a text message. Hey, it's wheel time. He's just upstairs, but I'm not going up there. Yoo-hoo. Wheel time. There.
Really? I didn't even make it down the stairs.
Nope, she sent you a ball to play with.
I want the drool-covered ball.
Suzanne, yes, I did, but the winners were posted last week. I think they were up on the website. I was having a great laugh because Judy Thacker was one of the winners from last week, which I thought was hilarious. She doesn't find it hilarious. She thinks it's awesome. I think it's hilarious. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with this project, coming up with this one, and I really wanted to cover basics. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed this one. The pattern is available on the website. Of course, we put all the patterns on sale, and we also have print patterns are on sale, and there is a Mom's Rock coupon code at the top of the page on the website. So make use of it. It'll save you 25% off of everything on the website, and that includes surfaces and sale items. So have at her. I love this one. Renee is setting up the wheel. Maybe. This one is a lot of fun. I enjoyed this one. And it's so pretty when it's finished.
There we go.
I have next week's project sitting here. Now I don't know where it went. So next week we are doing something for summer. I love this one. This one's not quite finished, so, no judging. But we are going to be doing lemons. Nice little sign for the kitchen. We're doing lemons next week. Yeah, they're all ready to go.
We're only doing 2 names?
Yep, just 2, but they're big ones.
Just 2 names.
Yep. So just to give you guys, reiterate what's in the giveaways this week. We have 2 of them. They're a special for Mother's Day. We have a kit in there just for Mom. Actually, there's 2 kits. There's a pin kit for the sunflower, which includes the surface. There's even a cup of tea in there for you. So we have the pin kit plus the project sheet is in there. We have a great little kit for a little kitchen menu board that is in there, complete. It has the stencil that you need. It has the surface, the stand, and the pattern with all of the instructions is in there. We have a wonderful little create bag filled up with some of my favorite little items, and which is my favorite sanders, the little tiny ones for working on Christmas ornaments and things like that. We have some awesome ones. We have a full set of sanders in there. And we have one of our new artist pins right here. We have a gorgeous 5-brush set of Dynasty black gold brushes, and a courtesy of Dynasty Brush, obviously. And then we also have 4 of the new paint colors from Decor. So you've got lots of goodies in there. And of course, we're going to ship that to you. So if you are lucky enough to have your name drawn, please go to the website, click on the contact button, send us your shipping information. If we don't have your shipping information, we can't send you your goodies. So, everybody ready? Renee's going to hit the wheel.
It's spinning.
Joan Mueller is our first winner. Happy Mother's Day, Joan.
John Mueller. Oh, you got a little black cat on there too.
Yes, we have a little Tazzy on the box.
Where is that?
She's sleeping right there.
What? You know what that means.
Yeah, she's going to be up soon. That's what that means.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta put the switch basket back there.
Yep. Or a basket back there.
Oh, basket. Yeah, we'll shuffle again.
Okay.
And Number 2 is
Ann Fogg. Ann is in upstate New York. That's awesome. So our winners today, just to cover that, is Ann Fogg and Joan Mueller. Ladies, don't forget to hop onto my website and click on the contact button at the upper menu and send us your shipping information, please, so that we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. And to everybody else, I hope you have a fabulous Mother's Day. I hope you were spoiled beyond belief and that you get to sort of kick back and relax for the day. And thanks so much for joining us every Saturday. We really do appreciate you. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Hit the big red subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you get notified whenever we go live or when we post new videos. So, in the meantime, everybody have a fabulous weekend. We love ya. Stay safe.
Pet your dog.
And pet your dog.
Gotta pet the dog.
Oh my goodness.